your struggle challenge with health that you have recently overcome.
Oh, yeah. So what's wild is, hang on, I want to like maximize this page. I don't know how to do it. Okay. I've never used this platform. So just before the show, I actually didn't know if I could do the show because I was supposed to have brain surgery that week. But then due to COVID, the surgery got postponed. And so then I ended up having surgery that like, March or whatever. So I've had surgery this past March. So that's why I have like a shorter haircut and all of that. So
So
yeah,
how was
but
that, what was that recovery process like, or like even going into it? Were you
yeah. So
terrified?
I was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, which
Okay.
is a condition that, when you hear that a baby may have water on the brain, that's kind of the expression they use, or they'll say, like a baby that may like have fluid that doesn't drain properly in their brain. And it happens in babies and in the elderly, but it's very, very uncommon for it to be diagnosed in someone of my age, like someone kind of at the middle point. So that's probably part of why it took forever to get diagnosed, because nobody thought I had that, because that's not common. So I was also dealing with quite a bit of fat phobia and racism and sexism, frankly, in trying to navigate my own healthcare. And I had to advocate for myself quite a bit. So just to have someone take me seriously, because I was being put on so many different medications that were giving me other symptoms and side effects that like, it was hard to kind of figure out like, what am I dealing with? So, and I didn't really mention, but my father passed in 2019 unexpectedly, and he was a doctor. And so not having him in this process has just been like a nightmare, to be quite honest. So, but I'm very fortunate that I finally found a really great doctor who happened to be at the LA LGBT Center. I'm so thankful to him because he took me seriously and he made sure that I got an MRI. And the MRI immediately showed that I had severe normal pressure hydrocephalus. So they ended up going into my skull. They have two forms of treatment. One is they implant a device in your head that they can adjust the pressure, so that way it can allow the fluid to flow normally. But I had ETV, which is endoscopic third ventriculostomy, for all the science people. And basically that just means that they poke a hole in your third ventricle, which allows your brain to like, the fluid will like move around naturally, or, like you create a better pressure that's kind of, self-regulated. So I'm glad that I had that, because having a device implanted in your body has got like a whole lot of ramifications and things you have to consider for the rest of your life. So for now, I'm doing quite well. I'm still here. And yeah, I feel a lot better. A lot of my symptoms are gone, and I don't have to take all those medications I was taking that weren't helping anyway. But that's all to say that I was on the show, and I, was it was on my mind for sure. So I'm really glad that I got through it, and not just the show, but got through the surgery, and I'm just feeling a whole lot better.
Wow. What was your favorite moment or your favorite moments from the show?
Oh my God, they were all so great. Because I've seen my episode and other episodes as well. And it's just so much fun. Like, honestly, those kind of family conversations where it's like, we're not blood relatives, but like, we all like, we care about each other. There's like a genuine interest in what, we each have to say and stuff. So I would say probably just all the confidence talk. I just feel like when I talk about confidence, it's not because I'm 100% there. This is a practice. Every day I'm practicing, trying to be a better version of myself. Cheryl was talking about how she practices yoga. And just like a lot of forms of self-healing, it takes constant work. Like you cannot stop, So I have my bad days. I've had a few bad days since the show. Like we all have moments where we don't feel our best or our cutest or our prettiest or most handsome or strong or whatever, fill in the blank. But I always come back to, my self-love practice and and caring for myself. So I think that was my favorite part of the show, is just hopefully like, I just envision like my younger self out there in the world, seeing the show and then feeling like, wow, I'm invited to love myself just as I am. That's a beautiful gift.
How would you advise someone to begin the process of getting the confidence? Because your confidence level was so evident, and all I could think is, wow, I want what she's having.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're asking how can someone get that
How did they
confidence?
get there?
Yeah, I think so. The first thing that I always tell people is to really edit your social media diet. I think if you are constantly inundated with um, photographs of people who have unattainable bodies, half the time the folks who have these unattainable bodies, they're cosmetically altered in some way, or it's a Photoshop situation or some kind of a filter. But it's hard to know that when you're just scrolling and then you just start feeling bad about yourself, you know? So when I started the Chief of Style, I actually created a brand new Instagram to do so because I wanted to, like, you know, flush out all of that kind of like negative stuff that I was taking in all the time. So with the Chief of Style, I basically just curated who I followed, and I followed people who preached what I care about, which is self-love and confidence at every size. And you know, a lot of these like, you know, like women in femmes are like stylish, you know, they're fashionable, they're like living their best life, going to brunch, going on vacations, wearing a bikini, you know, going to a nude beach, and you know, like, and they have like photos of these things, and so I'm just seeing positive, 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 and that's how I kind of would say is the best way to kind of get started. And then I think from there it would be to then take it in and see how you can incorporate that in your own life. So maybe like for me, I used to always, I buy clothes a lot online, especially when you're plus, you kind of have to do that because they don't have a lot of stores for you. So I would always find the measurement of the length of skirts or dresses I wanted to wear. And if it was not 25 inches, which is the length of my waist to my knee, I wouldn't buy it because I knew that then my knee would be exposed. So now I have the freedom to just buy something because I like it and I don't really care about, you know, my knees being exposed or not. So the whole point is try something new, experiment, and just like really take in the positive compliments because you will get them.
Chris, did you have anything? I know you are getting your hair done,
Yeah, self-care.
right? I don't know if your audio is working. I see your mouth moving, but oh, I see your mouth moving, but nothing is coming out. I believe Dylan is here in the chat. Dylan, if you have, Dylan says, I just love that Chris is getting his hair done during this. But yeah, Dylan was so inspired by you. Dylan is from Canada.
Oh, I love Canada.
And I don't know how Dylan identifies. You know, Dylan was one of the youngsters that I was talking about at the end of the episode that taught me and challenged me during my live streams when I'm just kind of presenting my outdated ways of thinking. And he's like, no, we're not into these rigid labels anymore. People can be fluid. They can change. There are different terms. There are things like pangender. I learned that from Dylan. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like me. I've always felt like, I've always been afraid that maybe I'm trans, and I'm afraid that my life is going to be very difficult when I step into that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found that I'm part trans. I can relate in a very deep way to the trans experience, but I also have my cisgender male side that has kept me, during the times of persecution, when my other side is being persecuted, I can go to this other side and kind of pass, and live a normal life without the persecution.
Right.
But now I want to just fully embrace both and be an advocate and be an example of a person who does embrace both. And I don't need to feel the need to change or conform.
Right.
So that's kind of like what I'm very passionate about. And I learned a lot of that from Dylan. Dylan says, I'm on the fat side as well. So a lot of what Amy said really resonated with me.
I'm so glad. I think it's, the conversation around body positivity, fat positivity, is very like, it's connected to a lot of other movements that just are around self-acceptance, you know, because it's whether you're fat, skinny, short, tall, there is probably some point in your life where you felt like you didn't fit in, or where you weren't like the standard or ideal you know, form of beauty, or you know, whatever. So yeah, I'm glad you could relate to it, Dylan. I'm happy. I hope you heard something in there that is comforting or empowering or inspiring. I'm also curious what part of Canada you're from, because I actually lived in Canada. I was a reporter for the Aboriginal People's Television Network, which is an Indigenous news network in Canada. So I have a lot of warm and fuzzies for Canada.
Dylan's from Newfoundland. I just spit.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. That's
How
really
can Dylan or anyone who's watching, how can they support you?
cool. I mean, I would love it if you like visited my blog, chiefofstyle.com, followed me on Instagram, Chief of Style. I'm also on Facebook at The Chief of Style. I'm, you know, starting a podcast soon, where I'm going to break down diet culture and its connection to anti-Blackness. So that'll be a short podcast series that I'm going to start soon. And then I'm also working on a doc series about Indian country and showing the diversity and intersections that exist. There are Black Indians that many of us don't know exist. You know, there are LGBTQ two-spirit Indigenous folks. There are people who are Indigenous, but they're from South America, and their stories are our stories as well. And so I'm working on lots of different projects. So I would love support on those. And I guess the best way to support me would be just to follow me and, you know, stay engaged. Let's stay in conversation.
All right. Your ability to communicate is just, it's almost like I've never seen it on this level.
Thank you. That is like the best compliment anyone could ever give me.
And I want to know, is something that you prepared for? Do you think it's a natural gift?
I mean, I feel is it obnoxious to say I think it's a natural gift?
No, you're
I
helping people.
Yeah, you know, I honestly think it's quite natural. I've always been a talker my entire life, but you know, I did go to, you know, good schools. I went to a women's college in Massachusetts for undergrad, and I got my master's in journalism. And so I think I've always hit communication from an academic angle, but then from like a social angle, and then I'm a writer. So, and I think I'm constantly editing myself. You know, I'm learning how to talk about these things because I just I try and have the conversations, and then I'll learn something, readjust, and then, you know, spit it out again better the next time. So,
Is that Smith that you went to?
Mount Holyoke.
Mount Holyoke, okay.
Yeah, which, you know, Smith. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that your rival?
Yes, Smith is our rival school.
Oh, why would I do
that? Yeah, so yeah, I think, you know, I've gone to like the good schools, but then I've also I read a lot. I engage in really, you know, like unique conversations online, so I kind of learn a lot about different people. And I think the biggest thing is that I just speak from the heart. Like I don't practice for this kind of stuff. I really just come full, like my full and authentic self. And I'm just like, all right, let's see what sticks. Like, I'm just going to throw things on the wall, you know? So.
Chris looks like he's ready and able now to say something.
I'm so sorry. I yeah, all kind of technical difficulties over here.
It's all good. You're worth it. We'll wait.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we've had great feedback from the episode yesterday. So so excited, Amy. You definitely had a really inspirational voice on the level. And I just had so many people reaching out after that show saying that this was one of the best episodes so far. And I just thought that was really encouraging, especially because you land in so many categories and touch so many buttons. And I think that was just such an important piece to, you know, to having you on, and that level of representation is really great. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, thank you so much for saying that. And, you know, the truth is I suffer from imposter syndrome. You know, I'm confident, definitely, but I still live in a society that is like white cis het male, you know, like that is the ideal and the norm. And so as like you know, a woman, a femme of like all these different identities, I do often struggle to just remind myself that I deserve to be here, that I deserve a space and I deserve a voice. So I really do this for my younger self. I'm constantly like talking to her and just saying like, you know, because she never saw someone like her on television. And so the fact that I'm out here, I really hope that more people feel seen and more people feel understood and cared about, because I really do. I care about folks, you know, and I want everyone to feel like they have a voice and that they can love themselves.
Do you have a core message that you would like to get out?
The one thing so the first thing that comes to mind, I would say, is that fashion is armor. Because for a long time I've been a fashionista, but I always felt like people who were like smart or whatever sort of looked down on that, like it was just so trivial because fashion, like poo poo. But the reality is, as marginalized people in marginalized bodies, what we wear is protection, like literally from the elements, you know, from like the cold, from the heat. But more than that, it's protection because you get to be yourself. Like when I wear this sequin kimono, like I feel like my most authentic self. And that puts me in a position of power, which allows me to take on the world. So fashion really can be armor, and it's a way of connection. It's a way of finding your people, you know, it's a way of standing out, peacocking. Like fashion really is, it's huge. And I feel like people don't give it enough credit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Chris, I think we should wind down. We don't want to take too much time, but
yeah, no, but I did want to ask a question, because I know that I'm so sorry, we've got these festivities out here. I'm not sure if you're hearing these drum beats in the background.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, but I did want to just touch on this, because I know right now, and especially since you resonate with so many different people, Amy, that what I'm curious about, and this sort of happens now, especially with the sort of recent situation with Dave Chappelle and Netflix and all of that. I'm very curious about both of your thoughts around, as we try to inform and engage people with some of the new levels of identity and where people are checking boxes. In all fairness, this can be very new to a lot of people. So that it's the idea that some people have grown up for years and they understand things a certain way, and now this is an introduction. I mean, if you think about it, it's gone from gay to LGBT to LGBT, LGBTQ, you know, like letters keep getting added, and more acknowledgement starts to exist. Hi, Cheryl. And
Hi,
so,
Cheryl.
and so that as we are kind of broadening the scope of acknowledgement, where then is that connection to the people who were comfortable in a binary place, comfortable being a male and a female, and where because what often happens now, and I feel that this is kind of an example of in that Dave Chappelle scenario, is that in many ways some of the arguments that he was making are being proved right by the actions of the community, you know, kind of lashing out. That there's this cancel culture that has been attached to the power that may exist in the LGBTQIA plus community. So I'm curious on your thoughts of how do we request and demand inclusion while still respecting and supporting the people who would like to keep things just the way they are.
I have some thoughts. I don't know. I don't want to trump you, Aaron, if you want to say something.
No,
Okay.
I have like anger rising, so I should not say anything because.
Okay, so maybe take a breath, sip some water, and I'll say something, and then you can chime in when you feel ready.
Okay.
Okay, so I appreciate the question, Chris, because I think a lot of people like have this question. The first thing is, just because we're centering and uplifting marginalized voices doesn't mean that those who are in a more privileged position or are the norm no longer have a voice, no longer have a space. Because when you say like, where do they get to exist? They get to exist everywhere. That's number one. The second thing is that, you know, I just feel like I don't subscribe to cancel culture, because I feel like cancel culture really hinders us from having honest conversations. My whole thing is, what is your intention? If you're coming from a place of love, if you're coming from a place of humility, where you say, hey, look, I don't understand pronouns. I don't know what your pronouns are. I don't really understand this gender, you know, spectrum. I get male, female. That's all I understand. Can you explain it? Or maybe do some research and then ask your questions. But the issue with cancel culture for me is that we can't expect people to know what they don't know. You know, I can't think that like everyone on this call is going to understand all the things about my identity without having a conversation about it first. So I'm okay with people making mistakes, but then I feel like we need to now come back to the table and have a real conversation and dialogue about it. The thing with Chris Rock that I think adds insult to injury is that he's given such a huge platform to spew the things he's saying, whereas other folks don't get that same platform, so you can actually have a conversation. Instead, he's saying a lot of ignorant things that he doesn't really know much about, and then people are just like, yeah, check, I agree with you, Chris Rock, you know, like
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. I mean, kind of both of them, but anyway, but yeah, Dave Chappelle. You know, so anyway, so I kind of feel that it's more about calling people in than calling people out. But at the same time, those who are being called out also need to own that they may not know about something, and they should defer to somebody who does, and maybe ask questions. But first and foremost, do your research, because there is a thing called Google and the World Wide Web, and it has a ton of information. And I don't think that people who are in diverse positions should always have to argue for their humanity. And I think that's often the position we're put in.
Amy, I think that is so fair, and I think that what happens is, I guess I fall into one of those groups of people who I have a lot of diversity within myself as well, and so in trying to sort of, you know, be identified and understand who I am and how I present to the world. I also just kind of want to acknowledge the fact that if you've learned, like, how long did it take you to learn your multiplication tables? So that at some point, some people it was 2 days, some people 2 weeks, some people 2 years. So that so if you're trying to learn your multiplication tables, by the time you master 2 times 2 is 4, then you understand it's 4. Now, if what is somewhat presented is 4 makes someone else uncomfortable, so that now 2 times 2 has to equal 5, because that person is uncomfortable with 4, when you've always understood it to equal 4. And so that then now that it equals 5 for that person, and they're more comfortable with 5, they're now sometimes saying you're wrong for still believing it was 4 all along, because now it's 5, because now we've created a new definition around it, and that now the responsibility is on me as a person who's always understood it to equal 4 to now do the research and figure out why now it is 5.
I think if we all were just accepting of differences, then people wouldn't be so, you know, what it sounds like from the other side comes across as hostile or, you know, like canceling. If we could just all accept each other, then you wouldn't have to be in this like fight all the time, because like your 4 can be my 5 and it could be somebody else's 6. It doesn't matter. We don't have to prove each other wrong. We all are living our own truths. Like, there are many, you know, ways of living and being. I just wish that you know, why is someone else's liberation a threat to my own? Right. You know, it shouldn't be. You know, I'm wanting to uphold everyone's liberation. The problem is there are folks who don't want me to be liberated. You know,
yes, but then there's also those people who are fighting for their liberation, who then put down someone else's view, who, like, if you're a 5, you can't be a 5 putting down the 4 and the 6.
But whom I'm not sure what number we're talking about anymore, but whatever number, I feel like that person has probably had to fight just to be seen their whole life. And that's the energy you're getting. I think sometimes you have to think of like, what is this person's intention? Where are they coming from? And sometimes people will come out and be like, hey, gay men, we're trans. We want visibility. We're here too. This is our place. And it may come across as like angry or hostile, but it's because they've been marginalized for so long. It's the same way that BLM to, a white guy in Kansas may seem like aggressive and violent and all this, but it's like, no, this has been hundreds of years of oppression. We are now saying, damn it, hear us.
And let me say this,
thing,
I would like to say, when you come from a perspective of you've been different all your life, and you actually personally have experienced just wanting to love, and people have picked on you, you daggone bet you it turns you into a monster. And you get to a point that you refuse to let someone else's insecurity dictate your peace. And you'll take a head off. You'll cut a head off in order to make sure that stops. So I get it.
And I feel like the folks who are receiving that like hostile or hot energy should just kind of say, okay, like this person's probably been through a lot. This person has probably dealt with having to explain or validate their own humanity their entire life. Let me just not take it personally, because it's not about you. It's not about the person receiving this information or this energy. It's this other person is just like probably frustrated and like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to like get too specific because it's I think nuance is important in these conversations, but I think it's just a matter of understanding. And I don't believe in calling out. I believe in calling in. And I think if we can approach just like this is about the house, the family, like if we just look at all conversations from that lens, I think that we'll be able to actually see each other as equals and have respectful conversations where it's not calling out and angry and,
And I would say that what I am asking of people is very simple, and it's not complicated at all. It is just to accept that people are different from the way that you may choose to be. Everyone is unique, everyone is different, and everyone has a right to be exactly what they are. It is very simple. Just allow people to be what they are and stop name calling, stop putting down, stop attacking, stop doing whatever it is that makes them feel less than. Because you don't want people to do that to you. So why are you doing it to others? That's the anger that I was feeling, is because I feel like you're saying, but we're comfortable being, heteronormative and living in a binary world. And we want to continue that. But at the same time, many people in that comfortable binary zone are oppressive to others who are not. And we have been.
And I guess, Aaron, the only thing I'm saying is there are people that are in a trans zone or a gay zone that are oppressive to others too. So that I'm saying that it cannot just be the people who are in the normative that are the oppressors.
But because I think you're talking about something very different.
Well, you know what? Let me say this. What I heard, Aaron,
because at the end of the day, when we talk about this experience for people of color, as a Black gay male, I am treated differently by white gay males. And so that at the end of the day, we both may be gay, but here is someone who still thinks that they can oppress me because they're white. So that I'm saying that when you create those large blankets, that that it's hard to just kind of pigeonhole people into that.
No,
Let me say this. We have been taught to, unfortunately, a society, and I always go back to America's first heroes were America's first crooks. Wish I could claim that. A youngster named Ray Love came with that quote. We're raised on a soil of people who came and Rayfield and robbed because of greed. This stuff, and just to hear someone say, why can't we just let people be who they are? Oh no, that sounds too much like right. I want to fight. Like you said, Chris, we got the white gays, and I came through the 70s. Everybody was being killed. If you was gay and you was in a gay bar, you probably get killed, right? And so gay men came together, and now the power that we see are the same America's first heroes were America's first crooks, which is why you'll see here in LA, West Hollywood is so separate. So I just say it almost sounds boring to think that can we all just get along? Where's the fight? Where's the energy? To have the anxiety? But it's a new generation. And that's why something called COVID came, so we could all feel the pain. And something tells me we're in a different climate where bullies are going to be outed, and they're going to get tired of being outed. So, and they're going to heal.
Cheryl calls them bullies. I call them oppressors. And I agree with you, Chris. Oppressors come in all shapes, colors, and sizes. And I'm saying that is the problem in the world for everybody. Oppressors, oppression, they are the problem. Now, what you are kind of forcing me to do is to have more compassion for oppressors, because you give the voice and the perspective of the oppressor and saying, well, wait a minute, we're comfortable being oppressors. What about us? And you know what? Guess what? I think you're right. That is a valid point. And I am not at a point completely where I can be there, but I need to get there because you're right. People have.
Well, because you can't say we need to love everyone no matter what, and then but except for me, like, you know, you all need to love everybody, but I don't. So we have to make sure that is full spectrum.
Could I just say this, you guys? I'm take it back real quick, because I wanted to definitely encounter Amy. I don't mean to jump a subject, but Amy, looking at you on that show and looking at a year later, I'm sure we can all, Chris, Aaron, Antonio, all look at ourselves and see the growth. But to see you on that show today and just you insisting that, you know, I'm going to be who I am and I'm going to fight, the freedom that was just bouncing off you. Girl, give us a little take on that. What you got to say to me? That's not even a question. What is in your heart to speak on right now to somebody that's trying to find that?
Oh,
Lord.
You know, we talked at the top of this little segment about how I had brain surgery this past March. And so like I've had a really rough past few years, but honestly, like I have just seen that like I am so resilient. And I mean, I have many thoughts about that. Like I'm proud of my resilience, but I also am tired of always having to be strong. You know, it's like women of color, Black women, like it's just this expectation that like you're gonna like hold it down for yourself, your family, like everybody in your life, like you'll just keep on keeping on, and it's exhausting. I will say that. However, I think that this pandemic and just everything that's happened, you know, in the last few years has just really shown me that like I just need to keep living my truth and just being my authentic self. For a long time, I think I struggled because I felt like people didn't see me, you know, like I wasn't Black enough. I wasn't Native American enough. I'm not white enough. I'm not queer enough. You know, even and being plus size, it's like you're not woman enough because like, you know, you occupy too much space, you know? So I feel like I've always lived in these margins. And I think now I'm kind of embracing it and saying like, F it, like here I am. Love me or hate me, I don't give a F. Like I love myself. And I think like I don't really have anything nuanced or like a new thing to say from what I said on the show. I would just second everything I said on the show, really. And I still feel all those ways. But I'm just I think that we're at a point now for some radical self-acceptance, especially coming out of quarantine. A lot of people have gained weight. And I've seen some folks who are very hostile towards people, like on dating apps and things. Like I saw one person say, I don't want to see anyone, you know, or your excuse that you've gained weight over the pandemic. Like what, I was supposed to be in the gym with COVID? Like working out, like to be what? Because being fat is the worst thing that can happen to you. Like gaining 20 pounds is the worst thing that can happen to you. Think of what that sounds like. Gaining 20 pounds is the worst thing that could happen to me. I mean, that's crazy. That's like crazy. So I guess I'm hoping that folks who maybe are a little softer, a little plumper, you know, just really love the skin that they're in, whether they stay that size or not, it doesn't matter, but just love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, no one else will. Like RuPaul knows what they're talking about, you know? So.
Wow. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
I'm trying to tell you, Chris, I'm glad you said that, Aaron, because she gave me, I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute, not Black enough, not white enough, not Indian enough, she got a whole lot of not enoughs. And I always say we catch the I'm not enoughs about 6, 7. Soon as you put that deodorant on. Soon as you got to raise them arms and get that deodorant up on it. Well, just 1 second ago I was cool, and now I don't smell good enough. Oh, so I'm not pretty enough. Oh, okay, and I ain't rich enough. Ah, so we catch that I'm not enough. Now I got a lot of them, Chris and Aaron. You just gave us what you done been through, baby. Please, I'm so happy you owning your power.
I would
And
like to get your
brain
advice.
is hurt. Brain. Wait a minute, and you talking to us? Miracle walking. So go ahead, Aaron.
I would like to get your advice about what we were just talking about. How would you advise someone like me to proceed? Because the way I've dealt with life is to sever ties, separate myself from anyone and any oppressor in my life, whether they are related, whether they are classmates, whether they're neighbors. Get away from them. That is what has helped me. And I surround myself with open-minded, liberal people who are advocates for everyone. They are supportive of everything that I am and everything that everyone is. So I'm now finding myself in a situation where I have to now be exposed to these perspectives that I think are highly toxic. What do I do? What on earth do I do?
Okay, I just want to commend you on the like snip, because I really feel that if you keep around like dead weight, you are blocking your blessings. I think it is so scary, I know personally, to remove people from your life. But if they are not helping you, they're hurting you. Like if they are not helping you get to that next level in some way, whether it's just by sending you like loving text messages or being on the phone with you so you can process out your feelings, or just being there to go to brunch when you just want to like have a fun Sunday, if they're just dead weight, you don't need them. And I think that like I think some of us like hoard friends, and I don't know why, because I think it's so much better to like Marie Kondo your life, like not just the physical things but the emotional things, the intangible things like connections, and really find what gives you joy, what sparks joy, and only keep that going. Because if you don't do that, you're lowering your vibration, and when your vibration's low, you're only attracting things you don't want. You will never get what you want and where you want to go unless you start to create that life where you are right now. So that's kind of, it's very much like, The Secret, law of attraction, but that stuff only works when you start to take action. So when you start to say, hey, like you are really like hindering me in some way or keeping me from whatever, I don't need you in my life. Like, I wish you well, peace be upon you, go on, like those conversations need to happen, and cutting cords probably should happen, but I'm glad you're doing that. I mean, honestly, like Aaron, I feel like I can't give you any advice because you're on fire. You are such a bright light. You're so amazing. You have a beautiful spirit. And like, I just love watching you be you. And I think a lot of us do, which is, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
We're going to get to crying. I done watched Aaron go through so much pain, and just thank you for saying that. Because Aaron, I always say as a child, I never wanted. You feel me? But that's how I've felt, and I've watched Aaron since Aaron was 17, and just floating here and there and trying to find a space. And so this is a wonderful time to see him. Can you say that? Because it's real.
Yeah,
it's real.
I mean, it was so good seeing you at the party too. I'm like, what are you wearing? Oh my God.
Right.
So cute.
You guys, thank you. Pardon me for being late. This was last minute. Chris, it's so good to see you again. Last night, I just want to shift and say the energy with us on the live was so cool. I think we have to come with that pure spirit. And if I go too, I always be trying to make sure I'm not too long-winded. So right now, let me shut up. Zip.
No, I think this was great. And so, Aaron, did you have any closing? I know you kind of kicked us off. So if you wanted to go ahead and close us out.
Sure. I mean, I think we kind of closed the circle, and we're ending on a positive note. Thanks to Amy. I'm very thankful. You have so much to offer, and I cannot wait to be one of your biggest supporters.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, please connect with me, y'all. Chief of Style on Instagram. Amy Stretten, Stretten, as you can see, on Twitter. I'm trying to tweet more. It's like Twitter is exhausting, but I'm trying to be on that platform. It's like, but you can Google me. I've done a lot. I've been all over, and I got stuff out there. So, yay, Dylan. Love to you too.
Everybody that's here on this chat, I just want to say we are the intellectual bunch. I don't say that to brag, but a certain mindset, a certain energy has drawn us together, and it's about a higher frequency in this world, and that's what we come in with. And anybody chosen to find us, they too are chosen and highly favored. I'm honored.
Can I say one quick thing about that before we go? Is that,
Please.
I think sometimes it can feel selfish when you kick people out of your life or when you prioritize one thing over the other for yourself. But truly, like, I feel that I have a responsibility to speak this, to share my voice, to share this word, because if I don't do it, who's going to? So I have to preserve my energy. I have to preserve my peace because I have a duty. I have a responsibility. So it's not just an ego thing. It's not just about me. It's about the culture. It's about the movement. It's about keeping our people moving forward. So protect your peace at all costs, because if you're not vibing high, you're not really helping.
Hey, this is a confirmation. Matter of fact, when we were on the live yesterday, somebody popped in, and it's a longtime friend who's been very supportive. And I said, there's my buddy. We had a beef the other day, and it was a really bad situation. And we both said, hey, we're going to end our friendship. And you're talking 10 plus years since she's been very supportive. However, I kept feeling the tug of war. I always say energy like the wind. So it was always a strain, and she's a Jewish woman in her 70s. And at one point, through our friendship, she said she remembered when blacks were starting to get in the business and they moved slow. She was like, they didn't pick up and move fast. So it's been moments of her white privilege, and I got my black privilege, don't get me wrong. But I said all that to say, by the time I found myself literally ready to strike, possibly in a situation that I would go back to the shore that I dug up out of the dirt back in the day, I said, I am willing on the verge of punching someone. Like, that really blew my mind. And so I said that to say these words, this is confirmation. But the other day I said, it doesn't matter right or wrong in my life anymore. All that matters now is, do I feel good energy? Is my spirit feeling at peace? If I'm wrong, fine. But I must keep that spirit at peace so that I can do the work. Like you said, this is a mission, Amy, Chris, Aaron, we on a mission to make this world a better place.
Google is free. Everyone has access to Google. So these questions about identity, about what people want, what are they fighting for, Google can answer them. And sometimes people are tired of answering, what am I fighting for? I just want to be. I don't want to have to defend myself constantly. I'm tired of that. So that's why I'm at the, snip, snip, and keep it moving.
Yeah. Well, I want to say about Dave Chappelle too. I don't watch television, but when Netflix gave him that huge amount of money for the specials, I said, man, I got to tune in. So I've been watching every special, and we all know Dave. I look at Dave Chappelle for the wittiness because I'm ready. I want to grab it, and I'm trying to be the best I can be. This particular special, I was sitting there with my arms folded, and it took me forever to laugh. And I was like, what's going on? And it just went on, and I couldn't laugh. And finally, before I laughed, I said, wait a minute, this sounds like this straight attack mode. What's going on with my brother? I love him. So I said all that to say that in the moment I said, man, did he take a payoff? That's some strong statement to be coming in your mind. So I was in Clubhouse the other day and somebody jumped in and they were like, he didn't take a payoff. He works his stuff out at Comedy Store. And I said all that to say, in this society, Dave Chappelle look in the mirror. He see a monkey. I'm here to tell you, in our community, I understand blackie, black tar, you black like dirt. Think of the pain that Dave Chappelle is in. Does he have a black wife? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me not talk. Because hurt people hurt people.
So Cheryl,
That's
why,
it. Hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people.
I
And
don't
it ain't
like
no
that
problem.
phrase.
Guess what? When you understand that, oh, you gonna understand. Oh, that's happening because we hurt.
Okay, but listen, why can't hurt people get therapy?
They
And this is it.
can, but until
You
they
know what?
do, they're
This is
hurt
it.
and they'll hurt others.
No, this
Yeah.
is
Yes.
it, guys.
I don't think they have a right to go hurt
One of the
others
things,
because they're hurt.
They don't
Aaron,
have a right. It's
This
not
is it.
good. It's
No,
that
no,
it just
this is
happens,
happening.
though.
Let me tell you something. That's why the great equalizer came that was called COVID. Baby, we had to all get with each other and look at ourselves. Guess what we got? We had to get with each other. Everyone that exists in your head, you had to get with them. It's happening. Therapy is happening. Mental health is wealth is a buzzword, baby. It's going to be a better world. And Dave
well,
Chappelle going to be in it.
well, and Aaron, I definitely wanted to just double back a little bit on when you talked about Google and all of that. I still have a number of relatives, of course, a bit older, and they're not savvy with computers. And you can't even guarantee that everyone has internet access or can function highly on cell phones. You still have generations of people still on this planet that don't rely on Google for all of their information. So the idea that I understand in your simplifying with that and then saying get therapy, you know, again, it's generational. That's something a young person would say because those are the resources that have been presented to you. Those resources were not always there for people. So a lot of these pioneers that are still alive are not going to function with a lot of these nuances that you're introducing. And
So it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility.
What happens is, so then you're saying, okay, you've been on the planet long enough, you've been a pioneer, you've done all this other stuff. Now you need to learn how we do it now. Now you need to pay attention to how we're doing it now. So I'm just saying, I don't like all that responsibility from young people putting that onto people who've been on the planet, who have invested, who have done the work in the way that they could. So now that there are different ways and new avenues and opportunities, don't discount the people who were there doing it when they had to still hide, when they had to find ways to just travel safely on public transportation. They couldn't have mommy and daddy Uber them around and live in this little posh situation. That's overnight.
I think he's talking, Chris. I think he's talking about the ones that want to say, "Explain to me, explain to me, explain to me."
But then what happens when you lump everybody together? Then you also gather those people who don't deserve that.
Yeah, you got a great point because we have to remember the generation that doesn't understand the youngsters. We have to be mindful and
they need to be respected. I'm saying don't just immediately make them ignorant and attacking because they don't know. I mean, their ignorance is real. It's not because they don't want to know; they just don't.
I'm 62.
I'm not talking about elderly people at all. I'm talking.
Right. I know.
What it comes down to is insensitivity versus sensitivity. When we hear people say, "Oh, they're being too sensitive," the LGBTQ people, they're being too sensitive. The young people are being too sensitive. That is an insensitive statement because the reality is, if you see a person that is offended or hurt, it takes a little bit of sensitivity to say, "Let me understand why. What did I say? What did I do that hurt you?" And then if you can understand that, then you all can come to an understanding and move forward. But if you just discount and say, the problem is you're too sensitive, that's called gaslighting. And
that's why we're here. We're here to be that voice and we'll each one to teach one. Thank you all. Love you guys.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
babies.
That was fun. Thanks, Amy. You were awesome.
Thank you so much, Chris. I love you. I love you, Aaron.
All right. Great job, Aaron.
See y'all.